Gospel Live Roll Talk. Today being the 15th of December, some people are already closing offices, others are closing schools, people are gearing up for a very long holiday. For those who have finished their exams, of course, they have up until next year, sometimes around late January or early February to resume school. In other words, we are in for a very long holiday. On the 30th of December 2022, that is the SSU Special Commandant of Sub-County Police Commander, Timon O. Odingo, SSP, Makadara constituency, released a statement saying that 3 malls, including Capital Center, Garden City, T-Mall, and actually 4th is Nairobi West Mall, are actually at risk of an attack by the Al-Shabaab. 24 hours later, the IG, Japheth Koome, came out and said that that is false information. However, he cannot rule out entirely. Kenyans are supposed to be vigilant either way. This is not something new. Around the same time last year, former IG, Inspector General Mutiambai, came out, of course, and warned people about the same thing. In 2020, similarly, around the same period, again, another commandant came out and warned people about the same thing. So, if anything like pattern, if pattern is anything to go by, then it means we are at a high risk of insecurity. This comes at a time where especially the county of Nairobi was in the middle of a lot of insecurity situation, both local and of course looking at the risk of insecurity from other neighboring countries slipping into our country. Tonight, we are talking about matters security and insecurity, especially during the upcoming holidays. And joining me in studio, I have my brother, Noordean Khagai.
Yeah.
Noordean, salam alaikum. I was confused between Khagai and Khagai. I don't know why.
I don't know why, yeah.
And of course, I'm being joined by another my senior. He can just walk in, Dr. Hassan Khannenje. You've missed this guy the way I've missed him. It's been a minute. Doc, salam alaikum. How are you, Doc? Uko salama?
Sana.
Mashallah. Karibu sana. Wallah, it's a pleasure.
No.
Doc came from safari this morning. You, Pole, umefika saizi?
Yes, just this minute.
My goodness. Pole sana na safari. But you don't look like you've traveled. Well, I promise you it's an honor, Dr. to have you here in studio and, of course, my brother Noordean there. Yeah. Karibuni sana jamani. Welcome. Guys, the state of security in this country, I'm going to start with you, Doc. The state of security in this country, and especially this Nairobi, after the false alarm that came out, and IG Japheth Koome came out and called it out as being a false alarm and said that either way, people should still be vigilant. From your own analysis, as a security expert, how can you describe the current state of security in our country right now?
It's significantly better than it's been, before, just going by things the reduced number of incidents, especially violent incidents. However, during the holiday season, people tend to put down their guard, and that is when bad things start happening, whether they're terrorist groups or criminal gangs, because they know people are gathering with their families, they're on vacation, they are not exactly very keen, but they're also in a hustle and bustle to try and either get to their upcountry homes or do things, last minute, Kenyans the way we are.
Yeah.
And that is normally an opportunity for insecurity to actually start emerging. And so I think it's very important that we're vigilant as we marry in this festive season, especially for those who celebrate Christmas. We really have to be extremely careful and be environmentally conscious in terms of being aware of the dangers that are just lurking. Of course, we're going to speak some of the dangers within, in the course of the program.
That I'm looking forward to hear from you. This is just but to touch the waters. Noordean, from your own perspective, being a legal practitioner, and of course you've interacted with some of these cases, maybe you've presented some clients for as far as insecurities are concerned. What exactly is your take on the current state of security in the country?
To be honest, I'm not surprised. If I'm to go by anything after the circular from the commander from the Makadara sub-county, and then for the IG to come out and say whatever he said was not true and he will be surcharged. It takes me back to 2013 when Uhuru got into office. The miscoordination or lack of coordination among our security officers. And that shows you, because for me to come out and say there are threats, we have received information, then the IG to come and later on rebut and say that whatever I said is wrong and that they'll charge me, shows a lack of coordination, lack of communication, and someone somewhere is lying to the Kenyans at the end of the day. And that tells you that, and you have to look at this pattern. Anytime there's a festive season, these issues come up. Insecurity here, there may be threats here and there, courtesy of you being, as a country, being in Somalia, you know. So you always have to be vigilant. But at the end of the day, I believe we have to focus and look at the safety measures we need as individuals, you know. And you know, safety starts with you, civic duty. So there are things you need to avoid as a person, so that whatever is being planned doesn't get to you. Because in as much as we have security officers, you also have a duty to protect yourself.
Interesting that you've mentioned about neighboring countries like Somalia and all that. And I want us to start with the international, like the Al-Shabaab and the threats they pose before we come into the disbandment of SSU and the Ahmed Rashid, the killer cop case and all that. But let's start first with Somalia. I mean, in 5 years, since 2017, this year we've experienced the worst attacks from the neighboring militant Somalis, Al-Shabaab. According to UN report, at least 613 civilians have lost their jobs, have lost their lives, sorry, and 948 people have been injured so far this year from the Al-Shabaab attacks. Kenya still having their presence in that country, and on the 19th of September this year, we had another troop of Al-Shabaab militants graduating from their training program, and of course issuing stunning warnings to the Somalia's president and of course our country because of our presence right there. I'm going to start with you, Doc. What does that say about our safety for as far as our country is concerned? And as you're preparing to answer that, I want you to answer that against the backdrop of, remember in 2013, we had 2013 and 2014, we had sporadic attacks, sporadic terror attacks. Talk of the Matatu bomb blast, talk of the mosque bombing, talk of several other bombing and attacks in our Kenyan soil. So with this information, what does it say about our safety for as far as the threat against Al-Shabaab is concerned?
Faisal, our safety depends on the environment we live in. Today, part of the increased attacks by Al-Shabaab is in part, especially in Somalia, in part is because Al-Shabaab is on the back foot. The new president has mobilized communities, and I think for the first time in many years in Somalia, the citizens have taken up arms against Al-Shabaab. Now, any time a terror group is on the defense, they tend to externalize the conflict. They tend to try to spread it wide in manner in which they seek to communicate their relevance, but they also want to shock and demoralize those who are fighting them. And so, because of what is happening, they're losing territory very quickly. They're losing favor with the Somali people. What is going to happen is they're going to seek to leave a mark somewhere else. And that is why, and all the more reason why we should be, very vigilant. Now, Kenya's presence in Somalia is under the auspices of AMISOM, yes. ATMIS, and is scheduled to end in about 2 years. And so Kenya does not have its own mandate, outside AMISOM, the transition mission.
But again, they are considered to be the bigger boys, the bigger brothers in the game, amongst the ATMIS members that are currently in Somalia. That's why we are facing more attacks compared to other members.
I think more attacks will come not just because we're the big brothers, but we are a frontier country. I don't think there is any country in the world that has integrated, for instance, the Somali community the way Kenya has. And because of that, there are certain vulnerabilities that are created. Remember, our borders, when people go back and forth, people who, whether from refugee camps or otherwise, and find their way in Eldoret, in Kisumu, in Nairobi, Kenya is a largely open society, and that creates its own vulnerabilities. The same cannot be said with our neighbors, not to mention that many of them are actually far away from Somalia. We have one of the longest borders with Somalia. And that is why it's going to be paramount that we assist that country to get peace and to be able to defeat Al-Shabaab there. so that they don't have to fight us here.
And Al-Shabaab's defense, they're like, why are you guys in our country? You're killing our people, you're killing our innocent people, killing civilians in our country. So that is why we're actually retaliating with civilians in your country.
You know, it's interesting when a sentiment like that is expressed, because 99% of what Al-Shabaab kills are actually Muslims who are completely innocent. They're killing more people than any other external group has ever killed in Somalia.
Mm-hmm.
And so, to the extent that that is going to be used, you know, of course it's ridiculous. The ATMI's presence is there only with the consent of the Somali government. In fact, the mandate has to be in line with the priorities of the Somali national government. So it is not operating outside that. So it cannot, for instance, be looked at even as a civil occupation force like what we've seen in the rest of the world.
Interesting.
Yes. However, of course, when a narrative like that goes unchallenged, then it becomes true.
Becomes a problem, right? I want you to add your voice into it, of course, considering that when docs say that Al-Shabaab right now, they're on their back foot, but again, in July this year, actually 25th of July to be precise, we saw Al-Shabaab invading Somalia's territory in Ethiopia, a place known as Ferfer, right? So basically, from a layman perspective, it would be seen as though they're actually gaining momentum and they're actually spreading out their wings, right? So I just wanted to add your voice into that as well. I wanted to add onto, given now the recent mission that Kenya is taking into Congo, are we likely as a country to see any retaliation from the Congolese, basically, the same way you've experienced with Somalia? No.
You know, first and foremost, like you rightfully said, you know, Al-Shabaab is more or less retreating right now, and it's like a wounded animal. You know, a wounded animal will bite on anything or cling to anything. And them attacking the area, you know, it's more or less just trying to show that we are still there. We still have, it's more like less like a war tactic to prove that you still have the might and everything. But deep down, you know, things are getting bad. You know, the president that is there is anti-you and is actually making the country realize that you are part and parcel of the problem, because as they try to move forward as a country to develop, to open up their country, you're the hindrance. So, you know, the people who live there, that is why they are ready to fight you as well. And once you don't have that backing, because you remember when the attack started in Kenya, security officers were telling people in the northern part of the country, do not shield these people, do not hide them. If you know these people who engage in these activities, let us know. That is why, you know, this thing about Nimbakomi came about, because about security, so that you get to understand who lives next to you, what they do and eat all. That helps the security agencies, because, you know, they can't work in isolation. They can't be everywhere at the same time. And you will look at the ratio between you and the police officers, it's huge. So you have a civic duty to actually assist them. Now, the Congo issue is totally different from the Al-Shabaab, because you see now, first and foremost, we're leading from different fronts. One, the former president is actually leading a peace mission. And he says so far they've achieved certain things. And I think they have a meeting again in Goma in February, late January, if I'm not wrong. So that's totally different. And, you know, there's no aggression from our part. It's more or less to go and help them try to resolve
peace mission.
Yes, to resolve their issues. Because, you know, the difference with the way we went to Somalia was totally different. So right now it's more or less about peacekeeping. And, you know, our army is qualified because it has done many peacekeepings across the world. So I believe the Goma issue is totally different, and the DRC by large, because when you look at the East African presidents as well, they also have a keen interest to see that that country actually opens up.
They actually had a meeting today in the United States of America.
Yes.
All the presidents, Samia Suluhu,
yes.
Rwanda's Paul Kagame, Uganda's Museveni, President Ruto.
Yes.
They actually, all the East African presidents.
And you know why? Because now it's a member of the East African community.
Yeah.
That means more business to their citizens. That is the reason why they want that place to be peaceful. And you know that country is a rich country. It's just that if I can quote the former president, Uhuru Kenyatta, he says, you're fighting wars you know nothing about. External influence wars that you're fighting. And you can see, because there are those who benefit when that country is in chaos.
Sure. When the country is unstable.
So the political instability can never bring about development. And I think that's what the heads of the East Africa community are trying to do. And I hope they achieve it so that that country can actually move forward, because it has a lot of minerals. It is rich as a country. And those who live in that country don't actually experience the joy of being citizens of the country. Because
so as a people, as Kenyan citizens, we should have nothing to worry about. As far as the peace mission in DRC is concerned.
Yeah, because you're not antagonizing anyone.
Okay.
Neither are you sending any aggression tactics. Because at the end of the day, and it's not just a Kenyan thing. That's why I'm saying all the other presidents of the Islamic community have an interest there, and they're all trying to see how we can have peace in that region. And I believe so far they've made inroads. So we wait to see how it moves when they go back to Goma in February or late January.
Hi, now, Sosi. I'm going to ask you to hold it there because you're due for our fast break. Watch out to leap a bill to Tafta Mshahara. You know Mshahara is in 15 days. Watch out Tafta Mshahara. Let's pay our bills, but again, hold it there. Just playing some advertisements, but keep it there. We're coming back. Let's talk about the disbandment of SSU. Is it likely to improve the situation of security, or rather to deteriorate the insecurity, rather, or the security situation that we're having in the country? And of course, Ahmed Rashid issue. It's a matter of interest as well that we're going to talk about right here tonight on Live Real Talk. Keep it there. My name is Faisal Kassim. Don't go away.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Quote of the day. Imam Malik bin Anas said, "I am but a man. I make mistakes sometimes, and I am correct sometimes. So examine my opinions and accept anything that agrees with the book and sunnah, and leave anything that does not agree with the book and sunnah."
Verse of the day.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
المال والبنون زينة الحياة الدنيا والباقيات الصالحات خير عند ربك ثوابا وخير أملا.
I was to be a junior pastor. I felt I was in the wrong belief system, and that's when now I started looking into Islam.
Nilitaka kujua huwa wanaabudu nini. Because of that experience, I made a decision that almost ruined my life.
Nikaanza kushika hizi verses za Quran. Juu zilikuwa zinanifurahisha sana, especially ukisikia watu wakizirecite.
Nikafungua anga Qur'ani, ilikuwa ya Kiswahili. Nilimanejingi tu kusoma aya moja tu kidogo kabla nipate Mwenyezi Mungu ameumba bingu 7 na ardhi 7. Hiyo ni jambo sikuwa nimewahi sikia.
I was convinced that Islam is a true religion. I'm getting emotional.
promotes development of knowledge, skills, understanding, confidence, and creativity to our students. To strike a balance, we have an ample playground for the children and strong extracurricular activities. The school has a mosque and madrasa for the students' spiritual upliftment. We're located at 6 Parklands Avenue off City Park Drive, opposite Regal Plaza on Tazza Lane. 2023 admissions are ongoing. Apply now. For more information, contact us on 0732 854 647, info@baitulhikmah.sc.ke or www.baitulhikmah.sc.ke. Bait al-Hikmah, a home of wisdom.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to Live Real Talk. My name is Faisal Kassim, and this is the Live Real Talk where tonight we are talking about matter security. And of course, I have an amazing panel with me tonight. I have Dr. Hassan Khannenje, who is a security analyst, a researcher, and a director at the Horn Institute. Karibu sana, Doc. Always a pleasure to have you. Oozing wisdom on the set, man. MashaAllah. May God bless you. And of course, a very good friend, Noordean Khagai. Karibu sana, bro.
Thank you for having me.
Asante sana. Thanks so much for making time for us this evening. Yeah. Now, the Kilo Cup issue made headlines. A lot of people have developed mixed reaction about it. Quote unquote, Kilo Cup. Ahmed Rashid, to be precise. Ahmed Rashid came into light sometimes, I think 4 or 5 years back, when Superpower, local terrorizing group, was actually terrorizing residents of Isli and businessmen within Isli, which is a very large business hub in East Central Africa. So Ahmed Rashid, together with his colleagues from the Pangani police station, they took charge and they cleared the streets of Isli, right? Something that after the disbandment of the SSU, human rights organization, the civil society, IPOA, and other organizations decided to take a case against him, presented it to the Director of Public Prosecutions, that is Noordean Khagai, and he gave it a clean bill of health. So right now, it's a matter in front of the corridors of justice. Not going to talk about the nitty-gritties of the case, right? But again, I just want to get your opinion because people have formed different opinions around this issue. Some people are feeling that Ahmed Rashid really helped Isli grow to where it is today. I mean, because without peace, there's no business. Without peace, people cannot live in harmony and worship, and right? So Ahmed Rashid tried to stabilize through radical means together with this team. This is a BBC documentary about it. So maybe just want to get your opinions about that issue. What basically you feel and you think about the whole situation of Ahmed Rashid. Doc, we're going to start with you.
Fundamentally, I'm a firm believer in human rights and the rule of law. And that is something that should always be observed to any country that is worth its salt. You cannot call yourself a democracy if you do not observe human rights and the rule of law. But at the same time, we have to conduct statecraft within the context that we live in. We know that, for instance, mob justice in Kenya is something that is fairly popular. Why is mob justice popular? And is mob justice actually justice? Now, the reason I'm saying this is because more often than not, people take the law into their own hands when they feel there's a failure of those responsible for them to protect them. Or that perhaps when they recourse to the rule of law, that perhaps those people may not actually face justice in a manner in which they should. There is a lot of crime sometimes in certain parts of the country, depending on, of course, on where you live. And to the extent that citizens, of course, are applauding the work of that soldier or that cop, I think it's in part because they realized he gave them what they were not receiving. Now that makes us rather forces us as a country to reflect. Where is it that we are letting down our citizens that we have to undertake these extreme measures? And why do we have to undertake extreme measures for it to work? Because it also means the courts are not doing the work they should be doing. And I don't think there's any denying in Kenya that there are a lot of criminals who've been in court and they've been released on bail. There are terrorists who've been in court and they were released on bail and they went ahead to conduct terror attacks. And so should we perhaps try also to look at our criminal justice system to ensure that citizens don't have to take the laws into their hands, and that also the law enforcement officers do not have to resort to quick fixes such as those ones because they know the court is actually going to do their work.
Interesting.
So this is not just coming out of nowhere. This is coming out of a failure to provide citizens with safety. It's a vacuum to do that.
I mean, and we have one of the practitioners, one of the players in the criminal justice system sitting right next to you. And while you're putting your voice into this matter, I want to jog your mind a little bit and remind you when the current Interior Minister, when he was being interviewed for this position, Cabinet Secretary, sorry, Professor Kithure Kindiki, he was asked about bandits. And he said criminals must be dealt with criminally, head on, right? That is what he responded. Those were his words, right? So as you're putting your voice into this matter, I also want you just to have that backdrop and react on both.
One, if I just take it up a notch from what you've just said about Kindiki, the president, during the other day when he met the head of most of the heads of the police service, he told them that you have to take care of yourselves, of your lives, and he actually said you have to be firm. All right, that's different. Now, when you bring it back to Rashid's case, what actually puts him in the precarious situation he's in is the video that was recorded, the daylight execution of those two boys. And like rightfully said, a developed country, a moving country must have human rights. And you know human rights are universal. So anybody that sees certain things, it depends from the angle they look at it, but bring an uproar. Now, I'd like to take this issue about his case with a wide view. You see, the reason why most of these police officers engage in whatever they are doing, and now why there was a time after the elections when the new government came into office, there was a Nyonga festival where you were being robbed left, right, and center because IPOA was on the watch out looking after who did what and what. So these police officers actually
retreated, basically.
So at the end of the day, the issue is, how do you solve these issues, these crime issues? It goes back to the government. You know, when you campaign and you promise you will do A, B, C, D to a certain generation, like let's say the young people, bring jobs and what have you, most of these people are stealing because I'm not defending anyone here. They're stealing because, one, no size of livelihood, systems are broken, they have lost hope. And that is why now, when they engage in these acts of criminality, when they get arrested, they get released because, you see, bail and bond terms are your rights. You cannot be curtailed unless, one, you're a flight risk, two, you might interfere with the investigations or you must interfere with the process that is ongoing. But if that can be proved in court, then you're released on bail. Now, the sad reality is that when some are released on bail, they go back and do worse than why they were arrested, or actually go after the cops who arrested them. And so you find the cops, some of them feel that there is nowhere to go, and so they end up executing them, which now makes it worse, you know. So at the end of the day, you look at these issues, even our prisons, for example, they're meant to be rehabilitation centers, but they're not. Recently, there have been crimes around Kilimani. And now they found out that the mastermind who was arrested the other day was released after serving a 6-year jail term. That tells you that that jail term that he served didn't bring anything good to his life. It means that the conditions were either worse or bad. You look at, for example, during Mudi Awori when he was the vice president, and he was a minister for, what was that ministry called?
Home Affairs.
Home Affairs. Minister for Home Affairs. He tried to change how things are done. Brought about the buses, the TVs. He tried to humanize those who are in prison. Because you see, it's supposed to be a rehabilitation center. But when you take a chicken thief, an armed robber, put them together,
space,
and then you don't help them or you don't make them change, that chicken thief leaves that place knowing how to fire a gun. And that is how we end up having a situation where the police feel like they're doing, it's more or less like a back and forth. They arrest, when you come out, it's either you go after them or you commit worse crimes. So it stems back from the government. You see, now the government has to actually work on a lot because the systems are broken. More or less, they are broken. That is why you are seeing right now you have two statements from the police service.
Yeah.
Where we are being told Nairobi is a hot zone, you might be attacked.
You might be attacked.
And someone is coming out and saying,
you're safe.
No, you are safe. But be safe at the end of the day again. So it shows you a breakdown of systems, which we hope with this, it's a new government, 100 days in office right now. We hope things will change for the better moving forward. And we see now, you see, the young people, you can never give them desk jobs, for example. I keep saying this. There's an entire ministry that deals with sports, youth, and arts. And we've had the pledges from different players who are seeking office. They are not in office. If you implement whatever you are promising these people, believe me, crime will go down. But when a country is growing, and then the gap between the poor and the rich is also growing, expect crime at the end of the day.
To bridge the gap.
Because people have to survive at the end of the day, sadly. And that is what they understand. And you see, for a police person, anytime they arrest you, you come out on bail and you attack them. Because there are stories that some of these young boys would actually go and kill the police officers and post it. And wear the uniform. So you see, this in itself, and they're human beings at the end of the day. But there's a question a friend of mine asked me the other day. He told me, you know, you're a lawyer. I have a question for you. So when a police officer executes, let's say, a criminal, it becomes a human rights issue. But when the criminal executes the police, what do you call that?
It's a tricky question.
Exactly. So, you know, we have to look at it from both ends.
Interesting. Interesting. Doc, thanks so much for that. No. Doc, we saw the other day the governor of Mombasa, His Excellency Dr. Sharif Nasser, meeting the coastal leaders and the security operators in the country, the top-notch, the leadership, in a bid to try and close the possible loopholes within the county, especially during these holidays that are upcoming. Of course, I feel a move that should be emulated by the rest of the county chiefs around, right? In your opinion, from your own perspective, as an expert in the industry, what would you advise some of these county chiefs or the security personnel to look into for as far as they're planning on ways of how they could close possible loopholes in the security apparatus?
Many county chiefs, county governments, are new. You know, they're barely a couple months in the office. A good number of them have zero experience in security, understanding of how security works. It's going to be important for them to work very closely with the county commissioners because they control the security architecture of the county, as well as communities and community leaders and groups, because these people understand what is happening. Any breakdown in that kind of arrangement is going to expose them greatly. Now, I think my colleague has spoken to the kind of discrepancies in police communication with regard to the level of threat and areas. Perhaps both of them did not issue the right statements, or at the right time within the right context. Number one, you don't issue travel advisories within your own country. Okay. When you're having a problem somewhere, if you're the one in charge, what you do is you beef up security and increase surveillance. Because if you're going to issue a travel advisory against a mere mosque, none of us are going to come here.
True.
Understand? And if it's a business, it means the economy is going to start collapsing because all those places are going to be avoided. So it's our responsibility when we recognize that there's a security threat, we beef up security, we increase surveillance so we can protect citizens to feel safe. Remember, the moment we sensationalize things, what happens is those who are issuing those threats, that is a success in itself, because they manage to paralyze you.
True.
But then at the same time, it does not build confidence in the citizens, because if you're saying, hey, avoid area A, that means you're not there. It's like, I can't protect you, so in case something were to happen to you, you know, you're on your own.
You're on your own.
Yeah, and so we should not, you see, when we're complaining about
Yet you're the one who's mandated to take care.
Yes, so when we complain about travel advisories from Western countries, we should not be doing the same thing within our countries. What we should do is take action, increase surveillance, communicate using the right channels, seek support. You know, there are enough men and women in this country who are tasked with the responsibility of protecting us, but also finding out information intelligence to keep us safe. And that's what I expect, I think, the future statements, you know, to reflect.
Wow, wow, wow. I mean, that's amazing words right there. Thank you so much, Obora. Thank you so much. Doc, karibu sana maji.
Thank you.
Umesema tumeongea sana, so acha tukunywe maji kidogo. As you're wrapping up this conversation, Noordean, the criminal justice system, of course, as you've clearly stated it, there are a lot of loopholes. So basically, what does it communicate to the citizen outside there? Just as Doc clearly said that, I mean, the travel advisory is issued, so you're on your own, right? So for as far as safety and security is concerned, and the loopholes that you just pointed out in the security apparatus, what does it say about my rights and my safety as a common citizen?
You know, when we started the show, I told you, matter security, you have a civic duty to keep yourself also out of harm, you know, or danger. Because, you know, you can't just walk into a national park and see a lion and you're like, let me just walk there. There are those who are, the KWS are here. It doesn't work.
They should protect my life.
You should also protect yourself. It's more or less like those who say, you know, that's a lion, let me walk there. I know Allah will protect me. He helps you to think with your mind to know that that's danger ahead. So, like right now, we're in the festive season. And you know, insecurity doesn't have a season, but there's a spike. Normally right now, there's going to be a spike because there are those who might decide to actually take advantage. Maybe they feel that there's laxity around the police service. Maybe the cops are not as keen. And so that puts you in a precarious situation as a citizen. You have to be vigilant. You have to be keen. Look at your surroundings, you know. Like when people are being robbed, you have to be keen. You know, you're walking, who's beside me, who's behind me at the end of the day. You don't just walk aimlessly and you with a don't care attitude. So I believe right now, you know, when it matters security, for example, and I've heard today the Deputy President say that they're looking for ways to make sure that the police officers move from guarding national government offices and replace them with NYS. I don't know how that's going to work because some government offices need those policemen and women, but it's actually good if most of them could actually come back to the stations. Maybe they'd help. But at the end of the day, now being a festive season, you know, a lot happens. We have issues of drunk driving. We have issues. The other day, you see the police officers actually intercepted a car that was filled with ethanol. That shows you they are working. But at the end of the day, there is something that we keep forgetting. I know the president has talked about a task force to look into their issues as police officers because they're demoralized. There's one thing we need to demystify, actually, or look into. You see, the former president humanized the military. Back in the day, the military was seen as an ogre. It was seen as a bad thing. You know, I'm going to join the military. Now it's a little bit more cool. They even have now a TV station. You see, the way of doing things are different. That's what we need to bring into police service. One, you look into their things like remuneration. You know, their pay is not that good. You look at the working conditions so that they can actually be motivated. Because we keep talking about bribes here and there. Offsite, we're talking about how matatus can just pass without care because they know that squad or that run, the policeman will just pick something and they'll be okay. But you know, if we look into their pay, you look into their work environment, things will change. Because at the end of the day, we don't expect them to be living the deplorable life they're living, and then you expect you're going to fight corruption. You see, corruption is not from the top, it's from the bottom. And we know this is a bottom-up kind of government. So I hope they actually look into that moving forward.
Even fighting corruption should be bottom-up.
It has to be, you know. Because, you know, let's say, for example, now we arrest every politician that is seen to be corrupt. But you as a citizen, your morality is still corrupt. Have we solved anything? Because there will be a vacancy. So you'll rise there. Exactly. So
and of course, take your and the moment you're in that position, then your appetite grows. And also to fit that office.
And also, you know, you are a reflection of your leaders. I keep saying that because you can't elect someone who's corrupt, and then once they get into office, you expect them not to be corrupt. It doesn't work that way. So it starts from you as a citizen, for you to realize that A, corruption is bad. B, it ruins my life. C, it ruins systems. Nothing is working. So if you solve that, then we solve everything else.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Doc, I really want to listen to your voice one more time. Just give us a parting shot within very few seconds. Give us a parting shot as you're wrapping up this conversation tonight on motor security. Parting shot.
I agree. We have a civic responsibility to also play a role in security and when protecting ourselves and our fellow citizens. And because this discussion emanated from the statements were issued regarding the potential terror attack, you need to be able to report with the law enforcement. And for those of you perhaps who may not be comfortable reporting to law enforcement, especially when it comes to potential threats of terror, as they say, when you see something, say something. There is a toll-free line, which I'm going to read, is 0800-721-600, 0800-721-600. That is the number that is going for citizen engagement with National Counterterrorism Center. They should be able to actually help you and ensure that that threat is addressed, you know, in real time.
Would you mind repeating that number again?
The number is 0800-721-600.
0800-721-600. 600. Abel, maybe you can have that number scrolling on the screen.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think especially this season, because you may come across, you know, strangers in your neighborhood, strangers in your hotel. I think, you know, if you call that number, you should be able to get the kind of help that is going to be needed instead of waiting. And as they say, majuto ni mjuku. You don't want to get there.
Beautiful.
You know.
Thank you.
Happy holidays.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Doc. Noordean, very fast. 1 second.
Like he said, it's a crazy season right now. People might take it easy and forget and throw caution into the wind. But I believe we need to be keen, really extra keen. Look at your surroundings. Look at where you are, whoever is around you, and you have a duty to take care of your body. You know, it deserves that. It's more or less like it has a duty of care from you. So take care of yourself, and it will take care of you. And I wish you all the best. Stay safe, and let us all, inshallah, meet next year.
Inshallah. Shukran sana. Thank you so much. Guys, remember, the Islam, the religion, clearly stipulates that whoever who saves a life is as though he has saved the whole humanity, and whoever who has killed a life, it is as though he has killed the whole humanity. So which side of the camp do you want to be? You want to save the life, or you want to kill the life? I mean, you have the toll-free line here, you have the numbers here, you have heard for yourselves right here tonight from the studio. I have nothing else to add. I want to say thank you so much. Thank you to my guest. Thank you to the team that made this possible. From Mustafa Kassim here, my floor manager this evening, Mohammed Samubora, Hassan Idris, Gaddafi Yassin, Aban Shihemi, and the rest of the crew back there. Nasemani Asante Sana. And for you all of you for keeping us company throughout the hour. Nasema Asante Sana. See you next week, same place, same time. My name is Faisal Kassim, and this has been the Live Real Talk. Assalamu alaikum.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
قال تعالى في محكم تنزيله بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم
Ninasaha kutoka pwani.
هذا الدين قال الله قال الرسول قال الصحابة هم أولو العرفان انتهى.
Ile kuongoza kwenye njia iliyonyoka.
Sikizeni hadithi hii ya Mtume alayhi salatu wasalam.
Hakuna atakayeweza kumfungia mtu mlango ambaye Mwenyezi Mungu alimfungulia.
Kuimarisha imani yako.
thabbit qulubana ala dinik wa ala ta'atik.
Ungana na mashekh wetu kutoka pwani kwenye mimbar.
Mimbar zinamwakilisha Mtume sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Ni Jumamosi na wakati saa 3 usiku katika Horizon TV, runinga uipendayo.
Uislamu ni dini yenye mpangilio ulio kamili na taratibu zake humpa fursa kila mja kuifahamu na kuelewa.
Muislamu yoyote lazima achukue jukumu la kuifahamu dini yake, kuanzia kwenye shahada, ashhadu, nakiri kwa moyo, kisha usafi wa kimwili. Hapo ndipo huanza safari ya kumwabudu Mola wake.
Usikose kujiunga nasi kila siku ya Jumamosi live kwenye kipindi Ufahamu Uislamu, ili ujifunze mengi usiyojua kutoka Horizon TV.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Quote of the day. Imam Malik bin Anas said, I am but a man. I make mistakes sometimes, and I am correct sometimes. So examine my opinions and accept anything that agrees with the book and sunnah, and leave anything that does not agree with the book and sunnah.